Quick reminder that the description has a link to a resource website that you can use to help contribute to ongoing Black Lives Matter organizations. You can do a myriad of things like donate to bail funds or sign petitions, all of which go a long way to fighting systemic racism. Thank you very much for your time. Hello everyone, GoldenNova here. The most recent ban list at time of writing, the official one at least, didn't change a lot, but it did unlimit 3 previously limited cards: Altergeist Multifaker, Necroz of Unicorn, and Ritual Beast Ulti-Kanahawk. These were viewed, largely, as safe picks, cards that could have come off the list for a long time without really affecting the game at large in a substantial way. And I happen to agree with that. I mean, I haven't seen anything that's made me think otherwise, but while we're waiting for a Necroz Incantation deck to come along and prove me wrong, it got me thinking, what other cards are stuck on this list that have yet to be set free? What other slices of cardboard yearn for freedom behind bars of bureaucracy? In this series, Escape the Vault, I'll be going over the history of one such card, the reason why it was sealed away, and making the case as best I can for their reintroduction into the format. Today, we're talking about Tellarknight Ptolemaus. But before we continue, I wanted to ask really quick if you could please like and subscribe if you've enjoyed my content so far. That way you can stay up to date on new releases, and my brain makes the happy juice when good numbers go up. Oh, and ringing the bell is a pretty good way to stay on top of things as well. These experimental videos tend to get buried by the algorithm, but if you enjoy me going off the beaten path every once in a while, that's a pretty good way to make sure you catch them. Thank you for your patience. Now, back to the video. Let's turn the clock back a bit. The year is 2015. Crossed Souls comes out this May, and it's the capstone set of a rather momentous year in Yugioh. Duelist Alliance had kicked off this core set cycle, and while Pendulums as a mechanic hadn't quite come into its own yet, there were a number of new and exciting themes that were shaking up competition. Well, until Necroz came along anyway and throttled the playing field, but that didn't stop those who were either unwilling or unable to invest in the taxing taxidermists from fighting back as hard as they could. 'Twas into this environment that Tellarknight Ptolemaus arrived. They're a rank 4 light warrior Xyz monster with 550 attack and 2600 defense, and uses 2 or more level 4 monsters as material. Once per chain, as a quick effect, you can detach 3 material from it, then Xyz summon a monster that's 1 rank higher than itself, almost always a rank 5, though notably you can't rank up Magic Tellarknight into a number monster. I presume to keep people from accessing Silent Honor Dark. They also have an effect where you can attach a Stellar Knight from your extra deck to Ptolemaeus during both players' end phases, as well as being able to detach 7 material to skip your opponent's next turn. But really, if anyone managed to pull that off, they must have had to endure the grindiest game ever. It's the only time I can ever imagine that resolving. However, while its first effect will become what it's most infamous for, at this moment in time, Ptolemaeus is an efficient gateway to accessing a powerful anti-dark tool. Tellarknight can Stellar Diamond. While it didn't do much to the reigning deck of the format, having an easy way to shut down not only the main deck monster effects of Shaddoll and Burning Abyss, but also the recursive effects of both Construct and Dante, and their mill options, was a strong turn 1 play. And while they could have gone into it previously by using Delteros or Trevor, neither of them were very good going first monsters, and ranking up with them denied you their floating effect. On top of that, both the previous Stellar Knight Xyz required 3 material, whereas you could make Ptolemaeus with only 2, so you had access to it even if you didn't open optimally. And while you don't have a main phase 2 when going first, because it could absorb a material during your end phase, it was always ready to transform into Diamond the second you saw a Shaddoll fusion. So even though Ptolemaeus wasn't exactly crushing the competition at this point, it was always a deck you had to have an answer for. You didn't really want to be the BA player caught without a Phoenix Wing Wind Blast when staring down the almighty Diamond. Trust me, I know from experience. But it wouldn't be much longer before its true power was laid bare. Breakers of Shadow would drop in January of 2016, and with it, access to a new boss monster that was both removal and negation. A card meant to stay squarely in the domain of Zane Truesdale, but was used by one of the most powerful decks of all times, unlocked by a descendant of the Dual Terminal Age. Cyber Dragon Infinity. Breakers of Shadow was another formative release in the game's history. Twin Twisters became the new standard for spell and trap removal, and Solemn Strike has remained one of the best counter traps in the game, second only to Solemn Judgment now that it's off the list. But mostly, this set was a playground for Draco Pals. I mean, look at these cards. Performapal Pendulum Sorcerer, Guitardle, Monkey Board, Draco Face-Off, Traptrix Rafflesia, Performage, Plushfire, another future banlist resident. Looking at this set, it feels like every other card is just another toy in its oppressively powerful toolkit. With its unrivaled ability to swarm and a flexible extra deck, you could build a sticky negation board going first, or a real bunker buster going second. And a monster that always seemed to crop up, no matter what, was Ptolemaeus. Now here's the fun bit. Cyber Dragon Infinity, in a vacuum, would never have broken into the meta by itself. Cyber Dragons had some cool cards then, no doubt, but they didn't really have the explosive output that post-Cybernetic Horizon Cyber Dragons would have. They could do some damage, but an Infinity in that deck didn't have many cards to back it up. And if you wanted to splash Infinity, you'd have to get to Nova, and that would require 2 level 5 machine monsters. Very rare, but doable if you included some Galaxy Soldiers in your deck to pair with your teched Cyber Dragons. Well, I say rare, but you don't need the luck of the draw if you can just break the rules. The amount of monsters you could put to board with Draco Pals was staggering, so it was an easy thing to make a 3-material Ptolemaeus, pull a speedrunning maneuver and clip through the archetype barrier to Cyber Dragon Nova, and at that point you were 1 rank up away from Cyber Dragon Infinity. Paired with Solemn Strikes and Rafflesias on the play, or Ignister and Castel on the draw, Ptolemaeus gave the deck access to a consistently powerful monster to anchor your field, no matter what turn of the game you were on. Heck, if they wanted to be cheeky, they could bypass Infinity altogether and just make Diamond if they wanted that specific floodgate. But, just as quickly as they had stormed the scene, they were gone. In an attempt to curtail the absolute control Draco Pals had on the format, Konami released their first, and to my knowledge only, adjusted list a month after Breakers of Shadow released. Think about that. They didn't even do that kind of thing for Ginlock, and that literally shut off one of the most prevalent mechanics in the entire game. So, after only a month of play, Ptolemaeus and Plushfire were relegated to the Forbidden List, where they've been cellmates ever since. But now, more than 4 years later, Draco Pals is just a thing of the past. Surely there's no reason for Ptolemaeus to stay on the list, right? Well, that's complicated. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has never pumped the brakes on barfing monsters onto the board as a legitimate strategy. If anything, Link's made them go even faster. So as long as your deck spams level 4 monsters, your play sequences can give you access to a negation body that's also some of the best removal in the game, and it already had a crazy toolbox to begin with. And that speaks to another reason why one might be hesitant to bring back the Stellar Centaur. It limits card design. The current rank 5 pool isn't extraordinary, but what if the designers wanted to make another Cyber Dragon Xyz monster? They'd have to keep in mind that rank 4 strategies would have as much access to it as Cyber Dragons, maybe even more so. And in trying to avoid making another Infinity situation, end up designing a card that's not as impactful and not as fun as it could have been. But I don't find any of those arguments very compelling. Sure, Ptolemaeus might allow for card interactions that would be too overpowered or unexpected in the future, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Already has a tool for correcting such things. It's the Forbidden and Limited list. If you ever want to free up the card design space, all you have to do is put Ptolemaeus back on the list and it'd be fine. As it stands now, you're just keeping a fun rank-up card out of the hands of people who want to do some silly stuff with it, like make Artifact Durandal during their opponent's turn or something. But leaving it at that would completely ignore the Infinity problem. How would it be healthy to give every level 4 strategy, or heck, even a strategy that can just put 3 level 4 monsters on the board, access to the cyberiest of dragons? Well, I'd argue that decks have much better options to go into nowadays. If you have that many monsters on field, all you have to do is make a Link 2 that replaces itself, then there you go, you've got an access code talker. Absolutely ridiculous for smashing boards. Or you can make a 3-material Appaloosa for 3 negates. In competitive decks, I highly doubt that people would cut no less than 3 cards to make room for Infinity, especially in today's state of cramped extra decks. Ptolemaeus doesn't provide any play sequences that would be particularly dangerous now, so it's really just taking up space on a list that could really use some paring down, and I'm sure it would give a lot of players a lot of joy to have it back in their toolbox. It's nowhere near the threat it once was, so I'd be happy to see Tellarknight Ptolemaus taken out of the vault and put back into players' hands. But now that you've heard my side of the story, what's yours? Do you agree that this rank-up magic on legs should be given another shot at playability? Or am I suggesting a sacrilegious course of action that would doom us all to another Tier 0 format? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed, please make sure to like and Hey! Did you tell him about my video yet? Oh, right. If you want to take a look at another video that I've done, I recently had a guest upload go up on Mage of Ancient's channel. We're celebrating GX June, and I was tasked with showing off Armed Dragon Catapult Cannon, and if you know anything about that card, yeah, it gets a little crazy. Link should be in the end card, be sure to give it a watch. Thank you all so very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.